Hey, everyone.
Looks like you might be muted, Ariel. Hey everyone, Ariel is getting her mic set up. How's that, Ariel?
Can you hear me?
I can now, yeah.
Lovely. Okay. Welcome,
Nick of
everybody.
time.
Yes. Welcome, everybody. We are so excited to be here to teach you about how to create the perfect video recording setup for beginners. And in just a moment, we're going to be joined by Aiden from Reincubate Camo. And Zach, do you want to just give a little explanation as to how you met Aiden and Camo and came across this product?
Yeah, it's really awesome and great timing too, because just when SquadCast was approaching adding video recording to our platform, we started seeing more podcasters and more content creators look for ways that they can look great on camera while recording their podcast, whether that's for the flowing conversation or if you're actually recording that video. The video is a big part of the real-time conversation on SquadCast and in conversations like we're having right now here on Crowdcast. So that's really where Camo comes in. It's a really innovative product and experience that that helps you use your phone, your typically your iPhone, to use the cameras on that iPhone to your advantage. They're really great quality, and through the Camo app and their software and innovation, um, we have the ability to use your iPhone as your webcam for conversations over the web. And that's like on SquadCast, of course, or on Crowdcast. When we pull Aiden in here in a couple minutes, we'll have we'll have the ability to see that firsthand. And beyond that, just how you can use technology, whether that's cameras, lighting, background equipment, all that stuff to your advantage to sound great, of course, but also look great. If you plan to use those videos for your content and growing your audience, as we've been sharing in the last few months in a lot of our content at SquadCast. So this is a really great time to collaborate with Reincubate and their show everybody what their app Camo can do to help in that effort. Can't hear you, Ariel.
Hey,
There we go.
there,
Hey,
I just keep forgetting today. It's not a
all
good
good.
technology day. So we keep saying Aiden's going to join us on stage shortly, but we have a few announcements to get through before that. So first and foremost, we have a contest going on right now on Instagram. If you follow us during the next hour on Instagram, I just put the link in the chat. You're going to be entered for a chance to win a SquadCast t-shirt that has the logo on the sweatshirt right now. And we are very excited to give that away. So make sure you're following us on Instagram and we'll DM 3 winners of a t-shirt. So get like and get following. What other announcements do we have, Zach?
Well, we have the chat going on, and we have a lot of people sharing where they're from. So if you're into that, please share where you're joining us today. But also, we have this amazing community, thanks in large part to you, Ariel, called Squad Pod. And if you're a member of that community, let's share your favorite emoji in the chat with us. And if you're not yet a member of the Squad Pod community, we'd love for you to contribute and join in to all the great things going on there. We have a link that we'll share for you to do that, and that comes with a number of perks and benefits. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Alex. Like access to Yeah, Northern California. That's what's up. I'm in Oakland, so welcome everybody. And the Squad Pod community comes with a bunch of benefits like office hours with our team, access to some early features and feedback opportunities for work that is coming up in the near future. And yeah, it's just an awesome community that we're grateful to foster and be a part of. And we also have a really awesome giveaway going on beyond the swag you mentioned, Ariel.
Yeah, we have a lot going on. This is a big one.
Yeah. So we, if you stick around, we're going to be sharing a coupon code to get 25% off of any of the video recording plans on SquadCast, and that's forever. That's a forever discount. So stick around. We'll share that with you. And we have a bunch of great insights and knowledge to share with our friends from Camo. In the meantime, anything else before we get started?
Yeah, no, that's just your incentive to stay to the end. Number one, you might win a t-shirt. Just follow us on Instagram. Alex, if you could drop in the link, that would be lovely. And also stick to the end because you will get a code for 25% off any video plan forever on SquadCast. And with that, let's invite Aiden up to the stage and we'll begin our chat about video and looking good on camera. And, just a reminder, folks, if you've got questions throughout our conversation, please feel free to post them in the Ask a Question tab on the bottom. That way, at the end, Aiden and Zach will take the questions and they'll go through them in the Ask a Question tab. With that, welcome, Aiden. Thank you for joining us today. And I'm going to hand the stage over to you.
Thank you very much. Well, it's awesome to be here. Thank you, Ariel and Zach. Great to talk to you guys.
Likewise. And just to kind of paint the picture real quick, Aiden, before we jump in, like we have a lot of cool stuff we want to touch on today. So we're going to kind of share really quickly the evolution of video recording on SquadCast. We're going to talk about how we can use these different tools to our advantage for recording audio and video, and then we have some discounts to share with everybody. So just in the meantime, we're going to put up a quick poll. Your app Camo has been awesome and growing a lot, and we've had a lot of Squadcasters and Squad Potters like already using it. So we want to put up a poll real quick, Squadcast team, if you can. If you're already using Camo, let us know. This will just be a simple yes, no, or you're interested in checking it out. And that will be really cool to see the results. And of course, we'll share more details there. But to paint this picture real quick, Aiden, the SquadCast video, right? We've always recorded audio on the SquadCast platform. And we've always also had something similar to what we're experiencing right now. And that's video for a flowing dialogue and body language and eye contact, and like roughly 80% of the conversation between humans is nonverbal, right? So that's where we saw the benefits of video for our conversation. And quite frankly, that inspired a lot of our customers to request the ability to record that in addition to the audio. But as you can imagine, like that's quite a technical feat, and we want to do that in a reliable, high quality way. That's our reputation at SquadCast. And Camo helps, of course, to enhance that. But we got to work on building that for audio and video recording last year, and then in January we launched local HD recordings and cloud recordings to a lot of great success. We're already seeing a lot of content recorded. I think in Q1 of this year we saw over 2 years of quality video recorded. Yeah, it just blows our mind, all the amazing content creators are making already. And then last week, we had our V4 launch, and we kind of doubled down on that technology and added the ability to record video of a screen share of the screen in addition to the camera. So lots of cool opportunities for video on the SquadCast platform. But, you know, like looking forward, how do we then use that technology to our advantage? Like, you know, there's a lot of factors when you're considering how to look your best and dial in your video recording setup, like cameras and, you know, all of those things. So from your perspective, like, can you paint that picture for us? Like, what are all the tools that content creators have in their kind of tool belt to look great and dial in their video recording setup?
Sure thing, Zach. Well, hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yes, sir. You
Happy
look great.
days. Good. Well, look, I mean, there's really four things. There's the camera that you're using, and the quality of the lens on the camera. Sitting over all of that, you've got lighting, and there's what's behind you, your background. And you know, I can talk through all four of them as to how they matter in different scenarios.
Cool. And I know that you, being, you know, the team behind Camo, probably have a lot of insights here with when it comes to those elements like camera, lighting, background, all of those things. So, like, let's start, I guess, with the camera. I think you mentioned before you have a bunch of different cameras that you have handy, and we can kind of step through those to see how those impact the quality here of the video. How's that sound?
Absolutely. Let's do it. So at the moment, I'm on Camo. So I'm using an iPhone 11 Pro Max. I'm on the regular ultra wide lens. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to the Logitech Brio 4K, which is the sort of the highest end webcam on the market at present. I'm going to stop talking when I do the switch. It takes a little while, but I think it will cut my audio out. So let me just do that switch. Now.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, for some context, I believe I'm on a Logitech Brio, but 1080p, not the 4K. So, so that'll also give you kind of a basis for comparison. And I think you're back, Aiden. This is the Logitech Brio 4K.
It is. So compared to what you just saw, you're probably seeing there's a bit of a difference in the blacks and in the whites in the image. There's a lot more kind of darkness. It's doing some weird stuff with my skin where it's kind of making me quite pink and trying to make me look a bit younger, which, you know, it's maybe a bit of an artificial effect, but it's really kind of messing up the lighting behind me. And you might see a little bit of flicker over my head where it's just kind of struggling to deal with the lighting. And also something I find that's an interesting way to tell a webcam is to look at the color of the whites of people's eyes and the color of their teeth, because sometimes they kind of tend to just get a little bit close together. Not the eyes, but I mean the color of the eyes. So let me go from this 4K to a C920. Okie dokie. So this is a Logitech C920. This is sort of the entry level external webcam. If you buy a cheap external webcam, you're going to get something like this. It's quite hard to angle it, but you'll see it's kind of it's flattened my face again. It's struggling with the light over me, and again the whites and the blacks are not as clear cut as they were before. If I angle it round, you'll see that blue is kind of washed out, and my face is a bit more on the grayer side of things. And yeah, it's fighting exposure.
Yeah,
exposure there, isn't it? It's not going to recover.
Totally different when it comes to the white balance, and also maybe some increased latency. I'm not sure if that's Crowdcast or if that's just. I know Logitech has kind of their own software where you can change some of these things too. But I've always found that to be really pretty buggy, and if anything, get in the way. So big difference here between the Brio 4K and the C920. And what's this one you're on now?
This is back to the Brio 4K, just to sort of step back up in a better direction again. You can see it's a lot better than the C920. But I'm going to switch to Camo in just a second. I think you'll see there's really quite a difference in the iPhone. if I do that. One thing this isn't doing at the moment is often the Logitechs have a sort of an autofocus twitch where every now and then they kind of judder. And if you're into kind of big professional cameras, you might think of that as the camera breathing as it adjusts its lens. But the webcams tend to do that a lot. So let me do the switch back now.
Yeah, I always find that pretty annoying when my camera kind of focuses on the wrong thing. And then I always kind of do this trick with my hand to kind of get it to get it to focus on something else and then focus back on my face. But yeah, the back to camo, big difference here. You want to touch on some of the things that maybe it's doing a little bit better?
Yeah, sure. So one thing the iPhone cameras are very good at doing is capturing exactly what you look like. I find a lot of people probably see that with taking a photo with their iPhone. It's going to be really quite effective. So this is camo on an iPhone 11 Pro Max. And I've got a bit of trickery going on in this scene. So you'll see that I've sort of got this bokeh effect where my background is blurred. And through camo, I'm able to control the level of that blur. So I can turn it down so my background is kind of starting to come into focus a little bit more. And I can bring it back up. So again, my background is more blurred. And in fact, I can turn it off altogether, which will sort of have me in a regular scene nice. As shot by an iPhone. So all of that clever research and development that Apple are putting into their cameras, billions of dollars every year, which isn't going into webcams, is available from your iPhone if you connect to it in this way. And I'm using the regular lens, as I said, on the iPhone. I mean, it's got a choice of different lenses. And so, for example, I can cut to the telephoto, which you're just going to see my eyes, like a sort of, yeah, exactly. So it's a real close-up. I mean, it's helpful in some scenes if things are further away. But similarly, it can go to ultra-wide. So you can see a little bit more of the scene that you've got. Something that I tend to do when I'm shooting in wide is I tend to crop my background. So I'm actually zooming in a little bit here because I don't want to show, I want to have my face in the middle of the scene. If I zoom out to sort of the lens's natural size, I mean, the Crowdcast is kind of cropping things a little bit here. Yeah, they are. You'll see my head's quite a bit smaller in the scene and there's kind of a bit more distraction in the background, but I'm just kind of bringing it in so that, I'm clearly the focal part of my part of the video. I'm also, I'm telling the camera to do a few things slightly differently. So I've got a slight saturation boost over where the iPhone would normally be and a slight contrast boost. I can turn them both off. So if I just do that, so you'll see I've just a little bit more faded now, but it's kind of, I've put them on to sort of just to spice up the image a little bit. So any iPhone will do this. Obviously, the newer ones, the better. The Pro Maxes are really very, very good. But Camo will run on an iPhone 5S and above. So that's a phone from
respect
8 years ago. So yeah, and you can pick one of them up for about $60.
That's super cool. That's super cool. And yeah, I know you all have some software that you have on the desktop, right? So maybe in a little bit we can get into kind of how Camo helps you use your phone for the webcam, and you have a bunch of settings like you were kind of alluding to there with the background and the which camera and saturation, and I want to definitely get into that, but other cameras that you want to show us today, or you want to dig into a little bit of those settings, or our next section?
So I'll not do a dive into showing off DSLRs, just because it gets very complicated with all the cabling. I've got a whole kind of demo kit set up here. One thing I haven't shown off is the Razer Brio. Let me just turn this portrait mode off here. So this is the new Brio Pro from Razer. It's similar to the Logitech 4K. It's got a bunch of the same challenges. I mean, it's quite a nice looking thing, but it's not going to come near the iPhone for quality. And then there is, if you're feeling really bold, something you can do is get a DSLR lens adapter for an iPhone. So you can get one of these from Moment or from Ulanzi. They're not amazing, there are some things that a DSLR will give you that just tend to be better in terms of image quality. So, you know, where we're at with Camo is essentially our iPhone can do something better than any webcam can do, and it can get equivalent to a starter level DSLR. But unlike a DSLR, it doesn't have the cost and it doesn't have the hassle and the setup. So this kind of a Lanzi trick is an attempt to get the best of both worlds, but it's not quite there yet. So, you know, if you go for a high-end DSLR, you can get better effects with the lens, particularly natural bokeh, which is where you have that beautiful background effect that the iPhone otherwise has to emulate.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna bring up, was that kind of that focal length, right? You gotta use a DSLR sensor for that. And like on our team, I believe Rock and Ariel have like a Sony A6400 into an Elgato Camlink 4K, which is something that is of course supported on SquadCast. So any DSLR that has a HDMI out will plug into that Elgato. That'll plug into your computer and show up as a webcam. But as and then just to paint the full picture, I have a ridiculous a Canon 5D Mark IV that I run through Elgato as well. But we're talking these are in big investments into video and photography camera equipment. That's out of reach for most people, and extreme examples if you're not in a studio. So while that is supported, I just want to paint the full spectrum and kind of how you get that bokeh effect with the device you probably already likely have in your pocket is a really nice middle ground. And I got to give you credit for finding ways to innovate and bring that into the remote creator toolbox and make it more accessible, not just for the photography that we all love to do with our iPhones and iPads, but for probably what we're spending a large amount of our day doing on remote conversations like this, or on SquadCast or on Zoom, and really making that more accessible to everybody. So I love the work that y'all are doing with the Camo app.
Thank you.
Yeah, and there's a bit more that we can get into here. You touched on you mentioned the lens adapter, the DSLR lens adapter, but I often think of lenses more for like photography and kind of opening up the possibilities there. But what's your perspective on the lenses that we can put on our iPhone or put on our cameras to like further enhance on this journey of like really dialing in the perfect video recording setup?
Yeah, well, if you want to get that beautiful bokeh effect with the DSLR, you want a low focal length lens, like a 2.8, something like that. Depending on the type of camera you have, that can be quite costly. You know, a good lens that's really going to help you with that can be north of $500. I mean, you can pick up something cheaper, but the lens alone can cost. And as you said, Zach, I mean, you can get like an entry-level DSLR for, I guess, between $600 to $1,000, but that's not what you want to shoot with. Like you don't want a Sony A6000. You know, as you said, Ariel's got the 6400. You know, that's quite a step up. And you know, then you get the lens as well, and then you get the adapter, and then you've got the cabling. So, you know, it's generally a couple of grand to kind of start to get in that sort of territory.
Yeah, and that Sony A6400, that's a mirrorless, whereas my 5D Mark IV, that's a DSLR. What's your take on that? I mean, I know that's a deep rabbit hole, but what's your preference there between mirrorless and DSLR?
Well, we've published a guide recently.
Cool.
A good friend of ours, Jeff Carlson, who's an incredible photographer, has kind of gone through that in a huge amount of detail on our site. I mean, he really rates the mirrorless cameras. They certainly work pretty well. I think one of the challenges that you face is if you're using the webcam software that these guys are starting to figure out, it's often not very good.
Yeah,
and if you're using HDMI out, you don't have the control. So you have to set the thing up. Sometimes you need a fake battery. Sometimes they overheat. But like if you want to adjust yourself perfectly, you have to keep getting up and fiddling with the camera. Whereas, of course, with a software solution, you can control the camera remotely. So, if you're moving around on the call, you can have the camera follow you around. And you can control that focus without having to do that fiddling.
Yeah, I've seen that trip me personally up, but other creators as well, where when you're dealing with a DSLR or even some mirrorless cameras, you're essentially dealing with two computers. You have I'm on a Mac Mini right now. That's got software and settings that I can choose for my camera. And then I also have that Canon, which is it's not a stretch to call that like an image computer, with its own internal settings of sample, frame rate and image quality and all of those things. So you got to be mindful of getting those settings to line up. And yeah, you could get kind of into a rigid setup there. So I encourage, if you're going to go down that path, like, practice, right? That's what is the name of the game here, is practice before you're on camera, on conversation. I mean, you're doing this like a pro, switching between all of these devices, but for the rest of us humans, it's something we gotta be mindful of, the settings at all of these different kind of points to get our setup really dialed in. And that may not feel like a beginner exercise to you here, and I know that that's the majority of our audience, so I just want to mention that to kind of paint the full journey here as you continue to evolve with your video recording setup. And I think Camo is a fantastic place to start, to understand some of these decisions, and really all frankly adding up to looking great and making that within reach.
Thank you. And I see CA just asked in the chat how we're recording this. So I can hold up another phone, phones within phones. This is sort of what my setup looks like. Nice. So you can see I've got the two webcams that I switched between earlier, and you can see I've got that's the 11 Pro Max mounted up just there. So I have that on a mount, and I can show you what one of those mounts looks like. It's just like a $15 thing from Amazon. So on one end, there's a little clamp that can clamp on a desk or on the back of a monitor. It's made out of a sort of a bendy metal. And then there's a nice little brace. So I can clip an iPhone, an Android, an iPad in that all work. So it's up there. You can set a shortcut that will say, when the phone is run, automatically go into Do Not Disturb mode. Or indeed, you can use your old phone or pick up a phone with a cracked screen from eBay. That's quite a nice trick. When the screen is cracked, the value goes down a lot, but it doesn't affect the camera.
Love that. Yeah, those. So I actually recently got one of those for my iPad, and I searched for gooseneck mounts. So that there's a bunch of options there, and yeah, love that that trick to find something with a cracked screen, but a great camera, right? And also, just to reiterate, you put your phone on Do Not Disturb mode, and then that prevents any kind of interruptions of a call coming in or something like that, a text message like vibrating and maybe vibrating the camera, right? You don't want that.
Exactly. So that's something you could do manually, but Apple have this shortcuts app which you can install, and you can get it to automatically turn Do Not Disturb on when you load Camo, and get it to turn Do Not Disturb off when you close Camo. Just so you don't forget, that's quite a handy one.
Awesome. Pro tip. Cool. And let's jump to lighting. You have some cool lights in your setup, in your environment. I have some fun things in mine. But just what does the lighting landscape look like? And just kind of to zoom all the way out, how does lighting for beginners, how does lighting impact the quality and experience when you're recording videos and working with these different cameras we've touched on, these different lenses we've touched on?
Yeah, so I'd say lighting's really the single most important thing. It will turn a poor camera into an okay one, and it'll turn an okay camera into an amazing one. If you have a poorly lit scene, it's very difficult for any camera to work. Now, iPhones, of course, are very good in low light conditions, as are some DSLRs. So that's quite a helpful thing. So it depends a little bit on the sort of scene you want to be and the sort of image you want to create. Now, I'm not very well lit here, in part because I'm set up to show off my lights, and I've got a professional light behind me. But let me start from the absolute beginning. So one thing you can do with Camo is you can turn the phone's flash on, so you can have the flash permanently on the phone, which doesn't cast a huge amount of light, but it's the better than nothing option. Stepping up from that, and there are similar lights on some sorts of webcams that do that sort of thing, but again, they're not very good. The kind of cheapest thing you might find is something like this. So this has come from Amazon. I think this is about $20. This is a USB powered light. So it's got a nice simple USB plug on one end of it. You stick that in your computer. It's got these cheap and cheerful little shields that go on. So essentially the light's always on. You can control the color, and there's a little hand control here. Now, one of the challenges of a light like this is it's not very diffuse and it's not very flexible. So it will give you a little bit of what you're seeing on me. You'll see I've got a slightly shiny forehead, and the light isn't cast evenly over my face. Now, if you're prone to having a shiny forehead, you can buy special wipes. They're de-oiling wipes or a matting wipe. Again, you can get them on Amazon. So you can you can take the oil off your face and you can powder yourself up. May or may not want to do that. And again, a proper light will probably save you from having that problem. So the next step up, and again, your mileage will really vary with this, is a sort of a ring light. So this is a Kodak branded ring light. I would really not recommend it, in part because it's hard to get the camera and the light in the same place. But also these ring lights, it is true that Kim Kardashian has a ring light, but her ring light is about 6 foot tall and 1,000 watts of brightness, whereas this thing is just not up to it. So I think that the sort of ring light that is available to you as a consumer, or even as a professional, is just not going to compare very well with other alternatives.
And just for some context here, Aiden, like one of those professional ring lights, like I've seen some at Best Buy, I've seen them on Amazon, right? Like what do those pro ring lights cost, for just for some context here?
Yeah, so you can get a cheaper ring light for almost nothing. But if you go to, you mentioned the Elgato earlier, and they've got a range of lights. I think their ring light is a little bit north of $100. I'd say it's possibly in the 100 to 150 mark.
That's not too crazy. Yeah, but still, not cheap if you're starting out. So,
no.
So just kind of, like you said, you can use the light on your phone. You can probably use some natural lighting, right? These things are in reach as a place to start, but just to kind of show the journey of upgrading and consideration here, right? So the jump from there would be like $100, 150, and then it probably jumps to like crazier and crazier from there, I imagine.
Yeah. So in the setup behind me, I've got probably what is the next step, which is a couple of Elgato key lights. Those things go up a little bit more, 100 to 150. They've got a smaller one, they've got a bigger one. They're okay. One thing they can do that's quite nice is they can control the temperature of the light. And that really means how yellow or blue it is, because rather how orange or blue it is. On one end, you've got orange for a very warm light. On the other end, you've got blue for a very cool light. So you can kind of correct the lighting in your scene. And they're okay, but like the software and the remote control on them is a bit difficult to use. And I'd say really they're kind of expensive versions of cheap lights. So like they're nicely made, but if you're going to spend that money, you can probably get something a little bit better. I'll show you what I'm lit with now. So actually, as sorry, as somebody asked, the cheaper light that I was showing off earlier is by Neewer, Neewer. You'll find that on Amazon. It won't cost very much. Let me just hold up this camera and try and get the angles right. I'm using something that looks a little bit like that. You can just see it on an arm there. That is a USB-C powered light with a battery in it. It's on a professional, well, it's adapted on a professional mount. It's very bright, and it lets me do a whole bunch of things. I can change temperature, I can change colors, I can make it flash. It can be any color I want it. And it's really quite helpful. I mean, it would be particularly powerful to have a couple of these lights for different situations. And depending on sort colors. Exactly. And that also means you can kind of avoid being too intense on your face for how you use it. Now, 2 more options for lights. Oh, I've got it a bit too bright there. So the next thing up is, so this light, I'm afraid I'm going to have to look up what this is called actually and let you know. So this is what you get for about $200. This is starting to step up. You probably have 2 of them. So then the next thing would be what you see behind me, which is a Godox. I think it's an SL60. So that is about $250, $300. It's on a stand that telescopes up. It can become about 8 or 9 feet tall. And that essentially is the bottom end of sort of professional studio lighting. Yeah. So it's got this big umbrella on it to really diffuse the light. So
they're pretty intense if you don't put that diffuser on it. And I don't have it on right now, but I have a Godox SL60W, and it's intense. Like, you feel the heat from it and you need to diffuse it. So that's where it's more for my my studio recording in here, not for my webcam setup, but yes, very powerful and still probably within some sort of financial reach, but yeah, kind of entry level for like on stage and studio lighting category.
So that's pretty good. I mean, it's got its fan on at the moment because it'll get quite hot, but it's got everything you'd expect. You know, you can't easily remote control it, but you can change the temperature and intensity, and there are ways to change the color of it.
One thing that I've done is there's like these smart outlet things, these smart home outlets where you can hook it up and say, okay, assistant, turn on my studio lights, right? And then that kind of just sits between, you plug it into the smart thing and you plug that in, and then you can turn it on and off. But yeah, it has some brightness controls. It has its own remote, and you start getting into the software and things on those devices. So again, right, practice if you're going to get any of this kind of higher end equipment.
Yeah, absolutely. And then best to last actually comes from the sun, natural light. If you can get natural light in the right scene at the right time, it's really hard to beat. But natural light's really challenging to work with. You need the right sort of studio or apartment. You need to be able to control for time. You need to be able to control for weather. Of course, the sun moves around, which is unhelpful. But you know, if you're in a place where there is nice natural light and you've got a fair idea it's going to be there for an hour or two, and you've got a kind of a secondary light you can use, that can be really quite powerful. To Diana's question on remote working and lights, I think this sort of thing. I think one of the commenters, I think George, says he got 2 of these for $25.
Nice.
I mean, these things are cheap. The fact that they're powered over USB is super handy because you don't need to plug stuff in. This thing can be screwed off, and you know it's pretty robust. I think you're quite unlikely to break it. And then there are a couple of other kind of light tricks you can do. Zach, as you said, you know, I've got some kind of smart lights around, so I've got some fill lighting. So as well as a key light or a couple of key lights, which are the ones that are on you and on your face, you might have some in the background, which is a little bit of a background technique, which I think we might start to talk about.
Yeah, that's what I use them kind of for a combo, and I was actually really surprised. I thought like the smart lights that I would just use for like my office, my environment here, would be just for that purpose, not really, you know, I'd kind of turn them off or supplemental while recording. But I've been really pleasantly surprised, both with like the C by GE smart lights, both the light strips, and that's kind of what you see in my background, lighting the back of my bookshelf, but also overhead. I have a bunch of the bulbs, like six of them, and I can do different color combos and stuff. And I've been really, really impressed with both like the Philips Hue, C by GE, any of those are really great additions for doing more dramatic lighting and also more consistent. While natural, while light from the sun is always going to be the best source, you need to control a lot of things to your point earlier. And yeah, if you want to record at like 10 o'clock at night, you need to kind of fake that, right? Fake the sun. And that's really where these like fill and key lights come in, and then the backdrop is also a lot of fun. And our next topic. So what are your thoughts on how to really dial in your background for different effects, right? Like color affects mood and helps communicate on some level with people. So I started out with my background green. I changed it to blue to be on brand with you. But what are your thoughts on the background, both with lighting and just in general? What's behind you while you're recording video?
Well, there's a body of data emerging on backgrounds, which is nice. And it helps us find a shortcut to some of the answers. There've been a few studies. There was one covered by the Harvard Business Review recently, where they looked at the types of backgrounds and the importance of a background in a scene. And what they found is for video, and particularly video meetings and calls, that your background is more important than the clothes that you're wearing in a scene. And people really judge you by it, which I think is quite a helpful thing to know.
Fascinating.
The other thing is they polled on 4 dimensions. They looked at authenticity, trustworthiness, expertise, and how innovative you seemed. And if you use a virtual background, you score the lowest on all of them. So the data is very clear that virtual backgrounds are not good. They're not helpful for business. They're not helpful for selling or persuasion. They might be fun, but people see through it.
It's kind of distracting from what matters.
Yeah, it's a bit of a gimmick. I think you can use them for a bit of fun, but it's not helping you present good quality video, and you look less prepared. Now, of course, that raises a question. Well, what do you do if you've got mess behind you? And the answer really lies in kind of lighting, in careful framing, but also to an extent in embracing it. So if you don't have a virtual background, well, what could you do? You could hang a sheet behind you and have a flat background. And the data suggests that having a flat, single-colored background is better by far than a virtual background, although it's not as good as a real scene. And if you go for a flat scene, as I said, you can hang a sheet, you can use a screen, you can do a number of different things. And by casting a light on it, you can get quite a powerful effect. So those categories that were mentioned, they were authenticity, trustworthiness, expertise, and how innovative you are. So a real
Put it in
background.
The chat too. Thanks, Aiden.
Awesome. A real background is the best thing to have. I'm showing off here an example of a bad background, or at least a difficult background to work with, because I don't have a flat background that I can bounce light off, right? I've got a bit of an angle. I've got a reflective surface. I've got a non-reflective surface. So it's quite a difficult scene for some cameras to work with. But generally speaking, it's helpful to have to be able to do some interesting stuff with light, mainly to be able to differentiate your face or the clothes you're wearing or your hair from the background, because you want to be able to kind of stand out from that and be distinct. And again, that's why having using a technique like a sort of a bokeh effect and blurring your background slightly is also helpful, because you kind of step a little bit out from that. And then really a little bit of light, some interesting things, a little bit interesting, but not too interesting. And that's kind of a good basis. I think we can kind of look to your background, Zach, for some good examples as well, because I think you spent a little bit of time on that, I think.
I have, yeah. And it's been a process. Like, I didn't start here. So as a beginner, right, I went more with like flat, right? Just make sure there's nothing really distracting behind me. And if anything, that what I intentionally do add into, you mentioned framing, right? So just to kind of define that real quick, like what's in the camera shot is primarily, right, like you, the speaker, me, my chair in this case, like my hair, and you mentioned de-oiling and makeup, and those are all kind of options for what we'll call like the foreground, right? But then it gets into kind of the background, and in my case, I started off with flat and then added lights, and then added the bookshelf is very popular with like YouTubers, and then you start asking like, well, what do I put on the bookshelf? And I don't want that to just be like files and folders and like messy stuff. I want to intentionally kind of design for that, but also not go too far where then it starts to take away from the foreground, like me speaking, right? In this case, and just to give you kind of an example there, I'll move my microphone out of the way, and you can see I have a plant in a pot from my good friend Lizzie, who paints these and sells them, and is my co-host on the Crypto Art podcast. I have a Google Home Mini here, and that's what helps me control my light. So I can say things like, "Okay, Google, change the background light to green." Boom, Luke Skywalker. So I can change that, right? I can change the brightness of it. I think this is not at 100%, but that's like a LED light strip, and that just kind of enhances the lighting for the items in the bookshelf. And then I have a typewriter, I have microphones, and then I have some of my old cameras. So this is like a early Sony mirrorless camera, Nex 3. I have like a 35 millimeter Canon. I like rock stacking, a book by Chris Kremitzos, the founder and organizer of Podfest, called Start Ugly, which is awesome. And then comic book here on Starman by my friend Eli, and then a picture of the early SquadCast team. So that is all relevant, right? For what I talk about. Like, we record video, we record audio. The typewriter is amazing, a piece of equipment, and is like, they're also very beautiful. This is like a gift from my wife. So I have an on-air sign. I have a rocket. I love space. So a little bit of personality kind of dashed in there. But that's how I kind of approached my background. And of course, these chairs. So just to kind of paint that picture. And of course, I can change the light in the background. So that gives kind of the dynamic element. If I want to do a lot of times past webinars and things, I like to do pink because that's in the SquadCast color palette. As I said, Luke Skywalker, like if I want to have some fun, right, I can do different things. But how do you approach your background? I mean, you have some cool lights there as well. And is this your normal recording environment, or do we catch you somewhere else today? Just don't want to assume.
Yeah, it depends what I'm doing. So I have an office, as in an office building. If you remember that before lockdown, where people used to go, it's still open to me, and that's quite good for more kind of formal filming, because I've got beautiful real bricks that just kind of glow very nicely. It's a very well lit room. And a lovely surface, so I can get a more kind of formal scene there. I've got a little bit of hue lighting, which I control with HomeKit. So I'll have sort of lovely spotlights that are built into the office. I'll have the hue lights behind me casting a kind of a golden glow on the brick, and then I'll have generally 2 key lights. So that'll create quite a formal scene. Here, this is my home office. I've got much more of the equipment here. And I find it's a better way to just kind of show off the different cameras, because I've got quite a few different colors going on. And of course, there's the depth. But I would normally have that Godox light in front of me. I wouldn't be behind it. But it's on show this way, at least you can see it.
Yeah, and one other element of my, because lighting typically can, unless you're doing all LED, it can add heat to your environment. And then being on camera, that can kind of make us glisten a little bit more than maybe we would like. So one thing that I've found is, I don't talk about this often, but I think it's helpful, is like a bladeless fan, because they're quieter, right? It's because I also focus on audio quality. So I don't want that to be picked up by my microphone. Also, the microphone choice matters in that decision as well. So that help it when we're kind of turning the temperature up with the heat of some of these Godox lights or the different options we've talked through today. That can help kind of keep things cool as a way to balance that out and keep you comfortable, so you can really focus on, you know, the conversation or the voiceover that you're recording for your video content.
I found the new M1 Max are quite effective as well because they're fanless, or at least the fans rarely come on, so they stay cool and they can cope with the AV processing.
That's so cool. Okay, well, we touched on a lot, Aiden. Like anything else beyond, you know, beyond the cameras, lenses, lighting, and background that you want to touch on here today?
I mean, I could show some alternate light. Howdy rock. And I could show the camo interface doing a couple of different things in different light situations. I don't know if that might be an interesting thing to see.
Yeah. I think we got a couple more minutes here, and then we'll wrap it up and take some questions. And you want to show us that real quick, Aiden?
Yeah, let me do that. So I am sharing the camo window right now, I think.
There we go.
Awesome. Right. So this is the interface I'm using. You'll see my Mac is in dark mode at the moment, but you'll see I've kind of got this portrait mode on, which is what's creating that blur. There's a couple of things you can do. So as we talked about backgrounds, I can show a bit more clearly now how zooming in is being used to hide my background or to hide elements of it, things that I don't want you to see. I can also use a custom watermark. So if I just bring one up right now, here's a very silly example of kind of an overlay that I'm using to obscure what's on the screen. So I can kind of put something that's, say, semi-transparent over some of my phone or over some of my view. So you can see here I'm kind of slightly blurring the side of it. So it's kind of restricting what's seen. And I can also, if the lighting's kind of weird, I can kind of change a preset. So here I'm bringing up a bit of pink. I can put my light into, say blue mode, and I can just create a slightly different effect. And this could be quite helpful when you're creating video that's used for social media. What we found is where we do kind of crazy stuff with the presets or with the previews, it's often more likely for people to click on it. You can kind of get better CTRs. Now, you know, you're probably not going to be using it in a regular recording, but it's quite a helpful tool to have at your disposal. Yeah, so I thought you can see the controls down the right-hand side of the screen there that let me do a whole bunch of extra things. You can see I've got that saturation boost on. I can ramp that up even further. You'll see I go a really, really satisfying orange color. But similarly, I can kind of really kind of take that out quite a bit more. But that's how I was doing some of the trickery, because I don't like to do all that trickery without showing how it's done. But yeah, let me put an end to that share. Doink.
Awesome. Sorry to crash the party, guys, but I got tagged in by Ariel. She was having some technical difficulties, so I'm here stepping in, trying to step into those shoes. So because we're getting close on time here, we wanted to take some questions. It looks like we got about 16 or so. And then also everyone here in the crowd, please remember that we're doing a giveaway with a t-shirt on Instagram, I believe. And then also we have a promo code. So for a, 25% off SquadCast. So we can put that in the chat. But let's go through some questions now. All right. So we got the first one from Ken. It's not really a question, but maybe we can make this a question. Hope you will describe advantages over saving video calls versus, calls using Zoom. So the question is, I guess, can you describe the advantages over saving video calls over Zoom?
I'm happy to touch on this one. This is what we focus on exactly at SquadCast is conversation first platforms like Skype or Zoom. They're not recording you at the source. They're recording you after that audio and video travels over the web or over the phone line or whatever it may be. And that's where the quality really gets degraded and people start to sound like robots and look pixelated. So at SquadCast, you can look and sound great while recording in the same similar way that your guest is used to, as something like Zoom or Skype. But you get studio quality, and especially if you're using a webcam setup like we've talked about here today with Camo, you can do even more creative things at the same time. So we want to give you those tools to preserve and enhance your quality without the technology getting in the way. And that's the biggest difference with Skype or Zoom. So, on SquadCast, we actually do it both ways. We record you locally and we record you in the cloud. And that way you have all the options to work with, not just one or the other. So just want to touch on that real quick.
And it's going to be much higher video quality, isn't it?
Exactly. Exactly. And audio and video. So really excited we can help so many creators with that, like thousands and their guests all over the world. So no sacrifices there. But you want to jump to the next question?
Yep, let's go. More. Yeah, so we got one from Diana. Diana's a digital nomad and is looking for recommendations for remote work in different places and rooms. So like room treatment and stuff, something that we always talk about, Zach. But yeah, Aiden, curious what you can add from your perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a really big audio part to that question, isn't there? And I suppose the answer starts probably with a dynamic mic rather than a condenser mic. But I mean, shall I'll defer to you, Rock, I think for the audio part of that question, or Zach?
Yeah, that's what we would recommend as well. And something pretty rugged, like I'm using the Shure SM58, Rock's using an Audio-Technica ATR 2100, both super rugged. You can put it in your bag. I've traveled with it multiple times. Can go straight into USB, so you don't need to carry around an audio interface, or you could get like a Mix Pre 3 or Mix Pre 6. Those are kind of pricey, but they're super rugged, and people take them out to like the Sahara and stuff. And I know a bunch of people who love to travel with those. They have great preamps. And then for the video component of this, you've shared, you probably have an iPhone in your digital nomad kit. So that with the Camo software and SquadCast, you can record audio and video, look and sound great wherever you're at in the world. Your internet is also a factor in that, but that's not going to reduce the quality of what you're recording. It's not going to reduce the quality of using Camo. So just want you to be mindful of all the things that you have in your control there.
Awesome.
And so I'm going to share the promo code because we're getting kind of to the end here. I want to respect everybody's time. This promo code will get you 25% off of any video recording plan on SquadCast forever. So super valuable. It's the first time we're doing this, and you gotta use it this week though. So this will not work come Saturday, but up to Friday, anytime this week. Again, use Camo 25 when you check out at SquadCast, and that'll get you 25% off of any video recording plan. So really excited about that one, and I also just put it into the chat.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. So the next two questions, I'll just combine. They're kind of the same. It looks like someone from your team, Aiden, already answered it, but just curious if you wanted to expand upon it here on stage. So question from Caro and Brian is only Camo only for iPhone, iPad. But yeah, it looks like Andrew answered them, but anything else you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, that's right. It'll run on an iPhone or an iPad. We're in beta for Android. So Android's coming very soon.
Great.
And Studio runs on Windows and Mac. So we've got everything covered.
Awesome. And then Chad has a question. And again, Andrew answered it. But the question is, does Camo have a license where I can buy it and then lease it out to guests as I have them on show in order to provide them a better camera just for my interview?
Yes, we can do that. If you drop us a note, we can help you out. We do a variety of things like that. There's a bunch of people running shows and production companies where they've kind of got per camera or per seat licenses, and they buy a pool and we share them around. So yeah, absolutely no problem. And that best thing to do would be to get in contact with us for that. On Twitter, we are at Reincubate, or we're support@reincubate.com. That's REINCUBATE.com.
Awesome. And that's what Andrew provided as a contact. So In alignment there. We got another question from Will. What is recommended for an entry-level pro camera for an iMac?
Well, I mean, I suppose it depends a little bit what you're doing and what.
It's one of those "it depends" answers.
Yeah, it's one of those. It depends. I mean, it's nice to have portrait mode. It's nice to have a blurry background, and for that you'd need an iPhone XR or above. Sorry, a 10s or above. The Pro Maxes are very nice. But I think if you want to get a really special image, I'd look at a 10s or an 11 Pro Max. If you just want to beat a webcam, an old iPhone 6 will do the job. So it depends. I mean, the Logitech 4K is, I think they've got like a StreamCam Pro version. They call that Pro, but like an iPhone will beat that. So it kind of depends on the effect. If you're going to be in a warmer light or in a lower light scene. But yeah, I'd probably look at a 10s and above.
Cool. Thank you. Hopefully that helped out, Will. I noticed that we're up on time, Aiden, so don't want to keep you here longer than is necessary, but we really appreciate it. And then for anyone that came in and joined us late here, this will be available for view right after this recording will be saved and will be posted on our YouTube and our website. So don't feel like you're going to miss the entire thing. You can capture it all or watch it all in its entirety. Anything else you want to touch on, gentlemen, before we close here?
Just want to share our gratitude and appreciation, both for developing something awesome like Camo to help more people have a better video recording experience. It's awesome how Camo and SquadCast can work together. We shared. So thank you, Aiden. Really, really appreciate it. And we also shared the promo code Camo25, and that'll get you. That's for SquadCast. That'll get you 25% off any video plan forever. And then I think your team also has shared a promo code. I just don't want to get it wrong. I'm not quite sure what that'll get you, but we have a Camo promo code as well. Didn't speak out of turn there.
No, I think so. The Camo promo code is SquadCast15. And that will get you 15% off an annual or a monthly plan.
Awesome.
And Zach, Rock, it's awesome of you guys to have me. I love the opportunity to talk with you both. We love SquadCast. It's a great product. I think the pursuit of high fidelity audio and video in these formats is just so important. And I absolutely love what you guys are doing. And it's a real pleasure to work with you.
Thank you. Likewise, companies like or products and services like us are what's lowering the barrier for creators to help them compete with big media companies. So it's a huge deal, and we're here to help, fuel the independent creator movement. But some of these independent creators, they want to hear from you, Aiden. Where can they find you? Where are you most accessible at, or comfortable giving away?
So I'm pretty busy on Twitter. I talk to our audience there. My name is Aiden Fitzpatrick. So my Twitter handle is AFIT, AFIT. Nice. So, I'm there on Twitter. I'm there on Instagram as well. And the company is Reincubate. So if you Google Reincubate or Camo, you will find us. You will find it. You can get going for free. Happy days.
Happy days indeed. Let me throw some of those in the chat.
Yeah, thank you everybody in the chat. This has been awesome. Thank you for the kind words, Eden and Leah and everybody else. This has been an awesome time together, and really appreciate everybody's contributions here today. And with that, I think we'll wrap it up. So the replay will, like Rock said, be available in a few seconds here after we're done. But thanks again, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.